Good afternoon, everyone. So I had everything prepared, sorted out, and then, well, when push comes to shove, you find out that this beautifully crafted QR code is hidden behind the panel, which completely misses the point. So I'm putting that up there right now in edited mode, whatever. If you could please take out your mobile phone and scan that code. Well, you don't have to. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. You can do whatever you want. I'll leave that up there for a few seconds. In the meantime, it might be good for a very small round of introductions. The panel members have been around for 2 days as well. Some of them, most of them. But maybe we can do a very short round of introductions, tell who you are. Maybe somebody missed the keynote, you never know, right? It's Amsterdam, so they could have missed the morning. It happens. I hope not, but maybe we start with you, David.
Are we on? Yeah, it's good. I'm an old guy that's been involved in technology for 40 years. I'm doing a very short form. C, C++, Java, Python. Axoniq was about 6 years ago when I started using it. Managing big teams, development teams, and running shared server centers. AI side, last 10 years officially. I know it's closer, it's okay. If you got that, AI for the last several years, definitely from 2019 and even before that with neural nets and bits and pieces. So over to my colleagues.
I'm Aaron Barfoot. I'm the CFO of a company called Socure. We're in the digital identity space. I'm the least technical person in the room, is my suspicion. All the hard questions go to either side of me.
Jess Reeves, you've seen me, CEO of Axoniq. Before that, Aaron brought me over to Anaconda and then left 3 months after to go to AWS. We won't talk about that. And I worked with Travis, obviously, at Anaconda. I was their COO and now CEO of Axoniq.
Travis Oliphant, yes, it's the Anaconda Mafia, apparently, taking over, but longtime scientist turned software developer turned business person. All really passionate about open source communities and lately AI and the opportunity it presents us.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. Sorry for moving in front of the panel. This was the problem, the QR code. It's probably unscannable at this point. Fortunately, there is the website you can go to, and then the code, which also you cannot read because it's also hidden behind the panelists. This is panel software, just for your information. But yeah, the code is up there as well, just in case you want to join. There's 42 people already in there, and only 18 of those like it so far. All right, so we've introduced the panel. I think it is now your turn. Please introduce yourselves to the panel. You can do that with your phone. And we have a few questions. Well, this is not really a question. It is, for me, AI is. And of course, the answers are hidden behind the panel. Someone else's gimmick. A useful tool, a valued advisor, part of my work process, or my prom date. And yes, somebody said my prom date. And I'll give you the microphone in a few seconds, don't worry. Okay, apparently it's more part of my work process than I expected.
I'm actually surprised there's so many. An occasional tool, given the crowd.
Does anyone want to comment on any of the results? Are they?
I think that's actually pretty typical. What I would see a lot of places. I mean, people are starting to make it part of their workflow, especially if they're in sales, marketing, or development, or apparently beauty, as I'm learning today. But then a lot of people are occasional tools.
So this is an average crowd?
No, certainly not. It's an exceptional crowd, way above average.
I still want to qualify the question. For me, AI is it Gen AI? Like which AI elements you're using, and then I can start believing the answer. 22 people using conversational generative AI. But you could break it down in so many different directions, I think.
All right, this is an open-ended question. And it is one word because it is quite difficult to type lots of words on a phone. But in one word, how is AI changing work in the next 5 years? And we should see a word cloud pop up in no time. Disruption.
Oh,
Completely.
simplicity.
Complicity. Requirements. Oh.
A lot.
Much. That's interesting. Speed.
Big mess.
A lot. Terribly. Ooh. Completely. Big mess. That's interesting because in your keynote, Travis, you hinted towards, this is where it's going to end, but we don't know how big of a mess it's going to be in between, right? Oh, vacation. I love that one. Anything out of the ordinary, dear panel members, that you see?
Yeah, definitely folks should comment on this, because I will, at length.
I guess it's which lens you're using. How is AI changing work for you, or how AI is changing work in the bigger picture? And I guess we've got a lot of software developers in the room, so maybe you're looking at it with a certain lens. What does speed mean? You're going to write code faster? Or the disruption? Is it going to be faster? I'm not quite sure what the answer actually interprets. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. I'm just fighting with a microphone. I'm normally
You just take it, and whatever it is to you you're the panelist.
It's funny, to me, it actually is access. Like, I think of it as access to a first-year law student that I'm not. It's access to, maybe an associate MBA. It's like access to knowledge faster, but I think it's access. And that's kind of how it is, at least for me today. Where it's going in 5 years, I think is
That's a great question.
Story.
Access and help you ask better questions. That's what I tell a lot of people, is use AI to ask a better question. When I started using Google years ago, way back, I remember the first use of Google was to type some stuff in. The second use of it was to actually do a better job of prompting Google, actually, get better answers. AI is the same. If you ask a good prompt, you'll get a better answer, and sometimes it's iterative to get there. I love the word access.
I personally find it makes me more productive. I use it for exchanging ideas. We had one of the roundtables. We talked about an MIT study. When I approach it, I sort of know what I want. I want to structure my prompts and my conversation in a certain direction. Putting a number on that, which has been a big part of discussions, am I 20% more productive? Maybe sometimes. I can have multiple research things going on, but I'm the human in the chain. I decide if it's talking nonsense to me at the end of it, then I structure it correctly. And then I spend 2 hours taking all the double dashes out of it so it looks like it's a realistic answer. That was a joke, guys.
We got it.
I think it's going to be just standard. Like, I don't think we'd even be asking this question in 5 years on a panel. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the adoption will be slower. But if my 6-year-old daughter is using AI, I think that it's coming at us, whether we're ready for it or not.
Kids are definitely loving it in school right now. I'd call it cheating, but they're loving it.
They call it research. Because
I
it was
think
a
we're just
research option.
We're definitely at the beginning stages of that. It's sort of, okay, here we are, and then it's going to go away like this, and then it's going to flip like this. Can we make AI stabilizing instead of destabilizing? I think that'll be a real awesome opportunity for folks, because there's a lot of opportunity for destabilizing. But using how people use AI will make a big difference how you use it.
Fantastic.
Can we ask questions
Yeah.
related?
Do we allow that?
I don't know.
Yes, we
Sure.
say yes.
Only from you.
Only to him.
Please do use the microphone.
Do you see AI as similar to the revolution in manufacturing in the 80s and 90s, where there was a reduction of about 90% in most workforces due to automation?
You assume we're alive during that time? Or coherent? Notice what was going on? Good question. Yeah, I think it'll reduce some workforces for sure. I think
It already is.
it already is. Yeah, but go ahead. Those who maybe actually study the economics of that.
I can't disagree with your statement. I think it's got the potential, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's why some people are scared of it and resistant of it, because we're humans, right? And that might take my job or my family's job, et cetera. So, and it might, right? That's the thing, it might. But we all recovered from that, right? And it gave us the ability to have even more powerful jobs that didn't require manufacturing this, that, the other, of being able to have jobs that we can critically think and things of that nature. So I'm hoping that, I do think it will be like that, but I also think it will push us to a place where the new jobs that everyone gets is just elevated, just like how
It's a
the
shift.
manufacturer. Yeah, it's a shift. It's a shift.
I think
That's
if I
what we want to
just-
see, is a shift.
Yeah,
And
you
do
know,
that.
it's an evolution. It's always been an evolution. The person that was cleaning the horse dung off the road, what are they doing now? You know, my great-grandmother was knocking people up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the factory. We're going to always evolve. The lines may get blurred. You don't have to be in some kind of hard-coded position, siloed. That gives you a chance to grow, for sure. So that excites me.
Well, a year ago, I went. I think the way it affects UI, the way we experience computers. I think that's the biggest change we'll see over the next bit. Is from the mainframe now or the desktop. What happens when it's just screens everywhere and the computers everywhere? Like, how will that look when all of a sudden? So I think AI will change work because are we going to really have computing the way we think of it today? Are you issued a laptop? Oh, no, you're just issued an AI bot, and you have lots of ways to interact with it. So I think there will be an evolution of how people just do work, and intellectual work in particular.
You know, in 1989, I went to a telecommunications plant, British Telecom, and I installed a computer, a small microfax on the guy's desk. He said, "Where's my monitor?" I said, "There isn't one." You know, even before AI, there was automation, and you could do various things. And it's not necessarily about looking at the screen to interact with the AI. You know, I think some of the stuff I was doing for a commodity company, you could have the earpiece that could make outgoing calls from MS Teams or Twilio or something, and it would tell them to trade. And I did this because a few years before, I did FX trading. The deal came in, they had 30 seconds, which is a long time in the FX world. But they were at the coffee machine. You know, if I could phone them up and say, "There's a big deal, can we take it?" The guy can ask what's the size, what the deal is, and he can say yes or no. I want to be freed from my screen. You know, I want to be able to have conversational AI, knowing that there's a really trustworthy backbone that's been put in place behind it. So, yeah.
There's a research study, it's not quite there yet, but people are starting to put thought to AI. So there's a few ways this is done. I've talked to those researchers, and it looks like, because what the models are showing is there's a latent space of understanding, and you can potentially tie into that latent space of understanding with different signals in your head. Because I want to be able to, not that I want people to read my thoughts, there'll be a jumble of confusion, I'm sure, but I want to be able to not talk, but still talk. I want to talk to the computer, but not have everybody hear me. And I think that's possible. How do we get to where you can just have intention and then things happen? That'll be interesting.
That's getting weird. That's getting weird, I think.
It is getting weird, but it's on the precipice. Probably not. It'll probably be 5 years before we get there. Maybe 3. But so maybe next time panel we'll be talking about the brain-human interfaces.
Brain interface.
Are you suggesting that there will be a machine or something that can actually make sense of all the thoughts in my head?
I'm not sure about you, but
I was getting hopeful, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. All right, let's go to the next question. What is your biggest concern about AI in software development? And yes, AI is a broad term, so whatever it is. Oh, there are some answers which we cannot read. I'm going to get replaced. Oops. Let's try to.
It will add to my context switching burden.
My expertise won't be a differentiator anymore. AI is going to introduce more bugs than we can fix.
Now everybody thinks they're a software developer.
Oh, I guess which one is winning?
Oh, wow.
So who of you thinks they are a software developer, but in the last 2 years have not opened an IDE? Okay, we're not there yet, but...
You know, you can argue the case for what's a software developer. I think in one of the meetings, someone put their hand up and said, I'm in marketing, and basically what I do is use vibe programming to try ideas out. And then maybe a concept for a website. I don't think we should have the barriers to exclude people. What's a software engineer? What's a cloud engineer? Maybe those roles, going back to the previous question, may change. You know, maybe once you're wired in, I can just build my cloud solution by thinking about it. Does that make me a software developer anymore? I'm in charge. You know, I'm the human in the loop, and I can be more productive. And I take responsibility for what I've just created as well, which is important.
That's the big concern, I think, is, and that's been a concern all the time with software development, is are you taking responsibility and accountability for what you're doing? And that, even today, you have transactional workers. People go, oh, I fixed the bug, I checked the box. Did you really? I mean, do you take an accountability for it? That's one of the things for a lot of developers I work with. I try to instill the notion of ownership. You know, you need to feel that this is yours, because one, you'll get more joy out of it. You'll love what you're doing better if you actually feel it. So will AI take that away from people? I don't think it has to, because there's other places to feel ownership, but it could, in transition, people might feel displaced. But I am concerned about right now this kind of increasing of transactional work with just, oh, I got my job done. A little bit like the cheating. It's the same risk that in education is cheating. It's the cheating in software coding. Well, the AI did it for me. Well, if you're saying that, then it might have helped you, but you still have to take accountability of shipping that code. And if you did, then you wouldn't say the AI did it for you. You just say the AI was a tool that I used to get this done, but you still did it. So we need that.
It was one of the big themes in all the roundtables was trust. And so for me, like the thing on there is like trust. How do you have trust in it? And to your point, in some ways, I just put it in and I'm done. But like, do you trust that you have the right output? And I think from my time at Amazon, one of the things you kind of get beaten into you is, hey, like, we're going to bring all the right data to the decision and we're going to make a good decision. And the question then becomes, do you have good data? And so for me, one of the biggest things is, as you do this, right, how do we build trust and make sure that we're getting the right data to make good decisions? Because obviously you're going to have the thing, it can move away from that, you can lose it. And so the thing that for me personally, when I think about the biggest concern is, like, how do we build trust behind these systems? And trust but verify, as we were joking about earlier. But I think that's like the big element in all of it, and that includes just what's being produced as much as it is, do we trust it? Do you take ownership of it as well?
I think you guys as software developers and managers out there and other roles, you talk about RACI matrices, that sort of, it's been around a long time. Who takes that responsibility at the end of the chain? Is it your manager? But someone owns that space. Even the person that produces their homework or their degree, they're going to be judged because the teacher knows them and the quality, but it doesn't stop you using AI in that space. I know a lot of guys that are now developing that had no idea how to develop. It's also educational. They don't have a white page. They're seeing something and they can start structuring it. Maybe the junior developers, they evolve. The blurred lines. I hate the word junior. It's a stupid title. It's okay for the pay differential maybe, but we can become senior individuals very quickly. We can learn the domain quickly. We can apply the domain. We can use it as our co-pilot, our collaboration tool that we're trying to build things around. So I'm very optimistic in that space. But that word trust, at the end of the day, will always be the underlying tone of what's there.
So looking at the numbers, it's about 25% that believes that 25% of this room believes that they will have to clean up all the mess that the 50% has been creating. And how do you see that?
I think that's an interesting point, because I was thinking of this also. I was thinking of the term unfunded mandates, right? And then the challenge that will of enthusiasm to produce more vibe-coded, more things, and then not realizing the cost of getting something in production. Like, do you really understand that? Are you really counting for that? Because the pressure will come. That's where the tension will happen, is when there's like, hey, let's get this out the door. It should be done. It's there. But they're, wait, it's not. It's demoware. It's an MVP. It's throwaway code, right? And some of this might need to be engineers going, okay, it's throwaway code. So don't fix it. Throw it away. Start again. Right? And that's hard. Someone like me who grew up, I didn't throw anything away. Like, I grew up pretty poor, and so like, if you had stuff, we're just gonna keep it. And so I can see that, like, oh, I have code, I don't want to throw it away. But I think we have to get comfortable with saying, oh, this was, if it is AI generated code and it's buggy, don't try to fix it. Just throw it away, and and learn from it and prompt better. Use that code to prompt better and get better code. So I do see that tension, and I do think there's going to be some challenges over particularly the next 3 to 5 years, in organizations where there's executives and management going code, 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 we should be doing this faster, and then engineers going, but wait, the code isn't stable, it's not ready, and some of that's going to be yes, depends on what I need to use this for, and where the bugs, what I need to use this for will be really important. Why am I doing this? Can I throw it away, or no, it can't? It's got to be reliable. Those are important questions that are going to have to be addressed in each individual application.
I used to joke that a lot of developers are writing tomorrow's legacy code. You know, just because developers or engineers wrote it doesn't mean it's good. There must be so much bad C code in the world hiding away in your television and your devices. No one's going to replace that. But maybe there's a chance with AI that it can refactor, which is part of a big transformational program, if I remember correctly. You know, and I think the lines will blur, as you've just described. There's assets that we can use. The asset may be very temporary. I think I know I wrote a LinkedIn thing about liquid software. What is it? I don't know if I coined the term liquid software. Somehow it's generated on the fly. It's used once and then thrown away. It's going to be a nightmare to manage, but maybe that's the future. In a different language. Rust, Bend, Odin, I'm not sure. So, yeah. Any points?
I wonder if the way you kind of prompted the question, it was like cleaning up other people's messes versus your own mess. And
We saw that.
Did I say that?
yeah,
I think he said
AI is
25%
going
of
to-
this room doesn't trust 50% of the room to do their job.
right.
That's the way I read it.
But one thing, so I'm married to a developer, and he had a mandate from the top, and we talked about AI mandates from the top as well, that you must now code with a coding assistant because we're going to speed up. Like, we're just going to speed up, and that's it. You have to. It's mandated. But then he was telling me, he was asking me my opinion, like, do you believe in that? I was like, I would never mandate that. Like, if you think it's going to speed you up, you should do it. But if it doesn't, I wouldn't mandate it. But he said it actually slowed him down in his specific project because he had to then fix everything he was then doing. And then it was just a lot of, like, rework and loops, if you will. But I think AI also will get better, and he may not be prompting it right. So who knows?
Can I just say one thing? Being a former Java programmer, the amount of boilerplate I was creating, yeah, Kotlin came along, but it was still boilerplate. And when I wanted to deploy it in an EC2 or a Lambda or something, not a Lambda, excuse me, for those that know. When I wanted to deploy it in the cloud, I had to write the Terraform. It was more boilerplate. All of that can be generated. Then you start breaking apart what's inside that microservice. There's probably an Axoniq framework there for sure, but if you take away, where's the real logic? What does it actually do? You know, and I found I could turn out one in 30 minutes. I think with AI now, it's just a large-scale copy and paste of what I was doing, and I'm trying to embed some logic into that space. And it's not the right way to develop. It's not the right way to spend your time. And I think AI might give you the up, especially if you've got Axoniq with AI somehow involved in the process. So, yeah.
And to make an analogy with the previous question about the industrial automation, I guess tweaking and setting up a machine takes a lot longer than just putting the one thing together yourself. But then it's about the long term as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Just a question from the opposite end of the spectrum of people producing garbage and AI. What about those developers that are in the top 1% of the 1% that are able to code faster than the AI is able to generate code in front of them? Because I'm dealing with that. When do you predict that that will also flip? Because currently there are developers that will outpace the best AI answer that doesn't hallucinate. So when is that job gone?
Asymptotic curve. I think you'll find that less and less and less, that it can really outpace, but it doesn't mean you just trust what it's producing. My concern is, how are you going to train that? How you got to get more of those developers? And we don't even know yet, because we need to figure that out. But I also trust that if we just let people cooperate together, what emerges will be figured out, because we'll by necessity create the systems that make that work. My concern is we get too early, like, oh, this must be how we do it, but we're not even asking the right questions yet. in terms of what actually needs to be done. Because what we have today is just emerged from what was needed before. And we just need to keep the dialogue going. So I want those, that developer you find out, who are they? I want to find them at this point. Because Claude's pretty good right now. They're faster. Wow. Yeah, it depends on what space it's in, I suppose. Event sourcing. Okay, very specifically. Yeah, well, we need to train on more event sourcing data. Maybe the Cloud Code doesn't have enough. But I also wanted to make a comment about, we've seen some of this movie before, like, because people have been doing cut and paste programming for a long time. Right, Stack Overflow emerged as kind of the source of cut and paste, right, which is the preliminary. So it's not like suddenly we're going from everybody's coding on their own to we have now helpers and AI. It's really just a different interface to what the internet, the open source ecosystem grew up around cut and paste. Like a lot of the popular ecosystem, that's what it looks like. So, I mean, some of the lessons are already embedded into what we've been doing. I think it's the speed at which, when it's going faster than humans can understand. And somebody wrote a great article about that. It's sort of understanding debt, they called it, as a kind of technical debt. How much code do you have that nobody understands? You have that already. That's not a new thing either. But it's kind of accelerating the pace inside of our organization. So I think that's going to continue to be a thing. That's what I would put as a concern, just this understanding debt.
And how much code did you produce that you do not understand?
Yes. Well, that's why I went to Python, because before Python, everything I wrote, in Perl, everything I wrote was that.
I worry that all the seniors, this is going to sound so morbid, but all the very senior engineers are going to grow up, they're going to retire, and all of the folks early on and generational won't have those critical software development skills. So then, to someone's point, like, what is software development? Like,
Yeah, we're beta testing that right now in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the U.S. government's beta testing that idea right now.
But seriously, like, who is training the younger folks and like passing it on? And yeah, you have to understand that someone has to be training the AI, right?
I was at a lunch table and we discussed your keynote, and the point came up that we know our deadline now. That is our retirement. That is the deadline. We do not exactly know what we need to do, but we need to figure this problem out before, who's youngest here? Because you're going to turn the lights out, right? And it's your responsibility to make sure that when every one of us has left the ecosystem, it's okay, you'll be good. All right.
I sort of want to be controversial for a second in the sense. So I always thought, I met a guy in Switzerland the other day who was 17, and he's excellent. He never sleeps. He programs, but he didn't have the maturity of domain-level expertise working in companies, and sometimes that takes you longer to understand the vocabulary of your domain. I'm not going to be allowed to work in the pharma industry because they just don't trust people who've never worked in that industry. You have to grow up inside of it. So I think, again, the situation is more complex. The senior engineer's code exists. Can you learn from it? At the time, you can't read the damn thing, and there's too many lines of it, and there's too many objects. So the AI comes in to assist you on understanding. And I think if you have that top 1%, they're going to get it one way or other. It's going to be in their nature. But if you're part of an agile team and there's 5 of you, it's not going to be top 1% guys. It's going to be shared responsibility and collaboration. So we have to look at it as more of a societal thing in terms of a team. And we may have to change the language. Maybe it's a specification language instead of the coding, but you can argue that takes longer. But at least it might be self-documenting in the process. And it will come down to collaboration with you and your peers, or you and the AI peer.
I accidentally moved to the next slide, but I went back. It's okay. Right. Any last comments? Are we good? Oh, we have a question from the audience.
There's one thing that I'm really worried about by experiencing this myself. So I have like 15 years of experience in the consulting industry, and I tried all the AI tools like Claude and Gemini, and I have found that, okay, it can do something for me, but on the other hand, I am skipping all the learning path. So I fear that even the skilled developers will be de-skilling. Like, I know when I was young, I could remember all the phone numbers of my friends. I can't do this anymore because they are all in my phone. So what do you think about that?
I wanted to say, and this, don't take this the wrong way, you know, coal miners don't exist in the UK anymore. They're de-skilled. Maybe there was a machine, maybe we went to different hydrocarbons and so on. And really, it's about the long-term view of what programming and, you know, platform engineering might be. Maybe it's going to evolve. You need to practice, but maybe you need to practice a different skill to stay at the top of your curve, possibly. I don't want it to sound too negative. It probably is. So.
No, it's a good point, because I think you say software development, and that's actually encompassing a number of actual skills and characteristics that are hard to describe. And I'm hopeful that people can actually learn. There's some books out there, like The Pragmatic Programmer, for example. You learn by example. What is it you've learned? What is your core concept here? Is it this API? And for early software development, it's like, oh, I know the API to do Amazon. I know the API to do React. That's not, yeah, I'll replace that, and that's good, because that's not really what it means. But, oh, I've learned how to architect a particular pattern, event sourcing. I've learned event sourcing as a pattern. Okay, now you've learned something, but maybe AI can help us actually teach better. I actually don't tell people to get a computer science degree. I've been one of those contrarian people that believe for a long time computer science was overhyped, actually, and just go get a degree in something that uses computers, because you need, and I still think that's really essential. Don't get a degree in AI development, go get a degree in something and use AI to do it. So I wonder about, I think it's a great question, because we're having that right now. Children are having that, and we're going to learn math. But I do think there are answers if we just allow the questions to happen and then decentralize our decisions. Don't try to have one. There's not one answer. That's the one thing I just let's all have a little bit of humility about. There's not going to be one answer. Let's just solve it for each other and share as we learn. I think amazing things will happen as we do that.
I think I agree. The chemists of the world and the physics guys of the world were some of the best engineers I worked with. They learned the skill of programming, maybe as a necessity, but they thought about it in a different way. And I think we need to see it with a different optic, a different way of learning, you know, and practice, but practice something slightly different. You know, most of my developers I had, they never wanted to be architects. I never understood it. They really were architects, but they were in a smaller window of architecture. And then when did the solution architect jump to be an enterprise architect? I never understood that either. You know, it's really about that collaboration, working with people, learning how you're going to add value to the business, and how the business may do reorganization bubbles inside of it. I think we talked about that at one stage today, the organizational bubble. And that's a lot of things to be excited by, but it's a volatile world for the next few years, and you need to prepare. You know, you have IQ, EQ, you need that AQ, that adaptability quotient. That's the important thing.
I think apprenticeship is like, you know, that's a word that exists in certain skills, in certain jobs a lot, right? But I think it applies, and what apprenticeship means will change. Right? I was joking about this, and it totally became the case. But when you look at like banking, investment banking, and lawyers, right, during COVID, the group that was growing up, the junior people in those groups, right, they suffered because they used to be able to sit like on a deal call. They could sit in the senior lawyer's office, and they could just listen. They could listen to the deal terms, the points, the back and forth. But on a Zoom, you couldn't do that, because you couldn't say, hey, here's my team of army of junior people listening in on this call to learn. You can't do that, right? Because you could just hide them behind the phone before. And in banking, they didn't come to work. They didn't have to literally go into the bullpen and get trial by fire dumped on, right, by the MDs. And it's funny that those classes are actually struggling today as they go through, because they didn't get the apprenticeship that they would normally get. And I think what's happening as this happens, I think we're going to figure out how apprenticeship works in all these jobs. And it's not software development. It will be in legal. It'll be in finance. It'll be across the board. What does apprenticeship mean? Like, how do you learn, and how do you make sure that you're aware so that we can create the trust? But anyways, I think it's actually going to change kind of how we think about that.
Fantastic. So we're diving quite deep into, deep matters, right? So I wanted to add one question that's a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to answer. So we'll get a still multiple choice, but just 2 answers. Claude is the smartest developer now, yes or no?
At least one person will say no.
There's a few that say yes.
There's competitors that would debate it.
Sorry. Well, maybe I should have asked that question. That is definitely no.
So what does smart mean? I would argue smart is a multidimensional metric.
Yeah, and then what
Therefore, unordered.
domain, right? Yeah.
Therefore, it's unordered, and so the on smart is actually ambiguous.
Yet, 8 people say yes. So I decided to ask the smartest developer, and they gave me a very long answer about how actually Anthropic's developers are the smartest developers.
Wait, that sounds a little built in.
But it was avoiding the question, so I told it, one word, are you the smartest developer? No.
Wow.
We're good. We're safe.
That's interesting. That's cool. That's cool.
So what is a smart developer in this context to you?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it depends. It's adaptable. I love the AQ idea actually because you can be. You've seen developers down rabbit holes. It's the most. For example, you can write the coolest code that's so intricate and so easy it's so complicated, but then somebody can't debug it. So was that smart to write code that couldn't be read by anybody else in the future?
There's also human aspects. When you ask a non-technical person what smarter or best software engineer is, to me it's the one that's super collaborative beyond just the software team and can understand like what problem am I solving for the customers and the users as well. And I don't think AI is generally going to know a lot of that. They're not going to know the context. Well, maybe if they're a vet source, but they're not going to really get right the context of the customer and their pain points. So I think the answer is no.
Do you want to comment on this?
I had a flashback to being the smartest developer in 1986. And my mission was to take a submarine on a simulation in front of the Navy, make it come out the water on a simulation screen, and start sailing with these things called bow waves on the front. And I'd been awake for 3 days to make this happen as the smartest developer. Submarine came up, no bow waves. A few seconds later, the bow waves were in the distance and they were racing towards the submarine. I forgot to multiply by -1 somewhere in the tensor world. Am I the smartest developer? No. You know, it's the definition, you're absolutely right. What is it? If I'm being a smart developer now, I want to find a way to add value to my company by maybe an optimized pathway to get there. And I'm going to grow in that space, and I'm going to learn how I can optimize that. I might become the top 1% of something. I don't know what that definition is. So smartest developer, learn and adapt. I think that would be smart.
Do you think AI has empathy?
Not sure everybody heard that. Somebody here, over there, said, do you think developers have? Only the smart ones.
That's a really interesting question because I think it actually gets through what do we mean by empathy? Does a person have empathy and how?
This is a long rabbit hole. Let's not go all the way there. But if I summarize, so if you look at smartest, you might think, oh, that's IQ, but it's not really IQ. It's EQ, understanding your customers, that what you mentioned, but also the adaptability. Are those traits that we see in any way right now in, well, this kind of tools? And to what extent?
I think they can be simulated with good prompting. But I think they simulate it. I don't think they have it.
Yeah,
I
don't think they have it.
All right. So make sure you have it, and then. All right. So these were the questions for the audience, and this was supposed to last about 10 minutes, and then we would have other questions, but now we have 5 minutes left, which is great. That means I don't have to come up with my own questions. Well, just one of them. So what, according to you, is the biggest organizational change you have to make, which is not in tech, but in culture and process, to succeed with AI?
I just want to reuse that word trust. You know, people distrust AI to a large degree, is what I see. I think if you can go through some kind of change management process where trust and education together becomes something maybe that releases some of the frictions. I don't think friction is a good word. Resistance to where AI might fit in the organization.
And how do you instill that trust? Asking for a friend.
I think when I looked at trust, there was probably at least 11 different types of trust. How do I instill the trust? I think the education is important. I think I want clarity and explanation of what we're doing and why we're doing it. It's not always easy. It's easier to say than do. I think you can't change without resistance. Yeah, I'm going to hand over to my colleagues who are much better to answer this question, I feel. Oh, look at that. 43 facials.
Well, I was going to give the same answer with trust. I think it's that organization has to kind of build the frameworks that allow for the building of trust, right? I think that's the thing about trust is it's usually earned, it's not given. And so I think the company has to build that framework where you can actually give the time to trust, to figure out what's going on, and then also build the adaptability to do it. Because I think in all the sessions we had earlier, like one of the common themes is there's no strategy. We don't have trust. And so I think you have to build those types with the strategy and have the adaptability as an organization to kind of move with it. That's the other thing too. I think it's going to take adaptability, which your AIQ, I can go back to, I think was a great one, because it's going to take us adapting, because there's things we're going to learn that we don't even know today on how to use it best. And so, we're like in the beginning, we're not at the end. And so I think like figuring out what that means and how that changes. And so the organization has to build the elasticity to adapt as well.
I think maybe just a point on that. I think the organization needs to accept a certain amount of controlled risk as well. If people are going to learn, develop, innovate, be entrepreneurs in that space, it comes with a little bit of risk. And I think a lot of companies may not be willing to take that step. I think it's difficult.
Yeah, they have fail fast. It'll be fail faster now, but.
Yeah.
Or failure fast. Anyway. So we're on time, but I do want to ask you this question. Let's go for each of you give one answer. Keep it short, one sentence. If someone in the audience, and it will probably happen, were to ask you for one piece of advice about preparing their organization for the AI-driven future of work, what would that be? Just one thing that they can do starting tomorrow, because tonight they're not doing anything, trust me. But tomorrow morning, when they wake up, what is the first thing they should start doing? I'll start at the left to just force.
Get arms around the data that matters and care about where the AI is run. Understand where the AI is run. So organize your data, organize your AI.
Maybe this is a very woman answer, but I would say meet your employees where they are. So I don't think shoving AI down anyone's throat when they're not ready for it, don't want to use it, et cetera, doesn't help anything. I actually think it is a net negative. So I think meet people where they are.
I don't think that's a woman answer. That's a really good boardroom.
It's a human answer, yeah.
Talk to them, yeah. Okay.
Never stop learning. I think it's going to be, we said education along this theme, but I think, to be able to trust, you're going to have to understand what's being produced. And so I think never stop learning is probably the number one thing.
I think maybe just to add to that, there's no such thing as the future. There's an infinite amount of futures. And for yourself, build a 5-year plan and then backcast that 5 years to where you want to be at each stage and maybe try and stick to it. And that fits in with lifelong learning. Don't stop.
All right, you know what to do tomorrow? Good luck. Let's have a big round of applause for our panel members.
Thank you.